Thank you for tuning into Culture Shock on Radio Korea. This is a program where we talk all sorts of things, right? Politics, economy, entertainment, anything.
Issues, social issues, whatever it is, we talk about it right here on Culture Shock. My name is Young Kim. I'm the content director. And
I'm your host, Michael Wan, news director for Radio Korea. Yeah, so through this program, we hope to expand the knowledge and power of Korean and Asian Americans and unite our community over key issues.
That's right. We're going on air from 7 o'clock to 8 p.m. on Pacific Standard Time, and on the East Coast, 10 to 11. All right. Uh-huh. And we're going to be releasing our live through our live stream on Radio Korea, as well as the uploads, which comes on the next day at 11 o'clock, exactly at 11 o'clock.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and is it called the bell button?
Yeah, you know what? I can never get used to that. You know, I'm originally from broadcast, and then now our thing goes out on YouTube, and we have to mention that all the time. Subscribe and like it. As you see, we do talk about a lot of different social issues that guests like today's guest can always help us with, is Alexander Kim.
Alexander Kim, very famous among the Korean community, right? I'll first introduce Alexander Kim. Alexander Kim is founder and principal of Three Kings Public Affairs, right? A government, business, and community affairs consulting company helping with clients with accessing the government and providing outreach to community leaders in the Southern California region, right? And you're also very famous for being the deputy for former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger as well, right?
Yes, for about over 6.5 years working with the governor with this out.
He was like the last Republican governor, I think, for a long time.
It's hard to believe.
Right? Yeah. Has it been that long?
When was it? Until 2008?
Right? It's between 2004 to 2010.
2010.
So it's been over,
And those were tough years too. The latter half of it.
Yeah,
it
after
was 2008.
It was tough. He got reelected. People forget that.
Yeah, he did get reelected because I think he was a very popular actor, right? Gray Davis was recalled, right? That's what happened.
Yes,
and
he was
then
recalled.
Governor.
Yeah, certainly his celebrity nature and status has helped out. Plus, he was married to Kennedy.
Maria Shriver.
Yeah, at the time.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he had a very difficult time because passing the bills, he had to deal with Democrat majority in both chambers, right?
Yes.
Assembly and on the Senate side.
But a lot of those policies are also considered maybe too liberal for the Republican Party.
Yeah, he was criticized a lot.
Yeah, in the beginning, he was, he ran as a Republican, so there was a lot of support in the beginning. But then when he had, especially some of the policies like that are more environmental in nature, it kind of left. More support from the Democratic side.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the environment thing, I passed on an article. I'm not sure if you saw it, but Arnold Schwarzenegger, he commented about climate change, about how that term needs to be rebranded in a way because people don't really care about climate change, apparently. So maybe he was saying that focusing on pollution might be a better thing. But was this kind of a thing that theme that kind of stayed with him when you were working with him?
I like that, focusing on pollution rather than instead. The global warming thing.
Because there is a lot of pollution.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, the term climate change does trigger a lot of folks. I would call it the weaponization of certain words that trigger certain emotions. Like, say, for instance, like climate change, if you say that, it's going to irk a lot of conservatives. Right? I always advise a lot of businesses when they talk about environmental issues. Don't use the word climate change. Call it energy efficiency, right? Mm-hmm. So what's the end goal, right? So one of the end goals is not just to change the climate or actually just admit that something's going on. It's also, well, as a small business owner, like the targeted audience, don't you want to save energy, save money, right? There's things like that. Another analogy is then the immigration issue. A lot of people get triggered when you say illegal immigration. Or you say undocumented, right?
Those
is that migrants? Same thing. Is that the
migrants or whatever the term is? So instead of focusing on certain nomenclatures, certain types of
the vocabulary itself is very divisive. That's
very
what he's saying, right?
I think that's what Arnold was saying.
Well, if you're saying illegal aliens, I understand that. Illegal aliens.
Aliens from Mars? Are you talking about...
No, you're pointing at a
lot of illegal aliens in the sky these days, right? The Navy is
I'll be honest with you. When I first heard that term aliens, you know, I mean, coming from Korea, I felt like, I mean, this is very derogatory.
But you are a resident alien. You still are a resident alien.
I
right?
agree. When I saw that, like alien, isn't that a term for people that are off world?
Because that's when like the movie Aliens were out, you know?
Yeah, so I agree.
That's when
It
that
was a
out.
very, the way, I guess back in the days where political correctness was not really a thing, it's a way to differentiate between who's should be in the country or who shouldn't be on a temporary basis. So I agree. It's, I'm glad they hopefully
Did they change it?
I don't know if they changed it, to be honest.
I thought I was still a resident alien. Or I was a resident alien.
I think they don't. They decide not to use the term alien anymore. But obviously, I think it's still used on both sides of the aisle. I think. You know?
That's why they say migrants, huh? Migrant workers or.
Yeah, in the end, you know, and going back to the same thing.
No,
with
migrants
climate
has a little
change.
bit of a different connotation because
You move
you're
from
talking
place to
about people
place.
from Central America, South America coming over here.
Yeah,
and
but in
then
Korea, there's
escaping-
migrant workers too.
What's not commented
Oh,
on.
are you talking about like political refugees?
Yes.
Okay.
What's not
refugees.
commented is Mexico has one of the toughest immigration
They do,
laws.
right?
So they're very strict.
Yes.
So
But we could just go to Mexico anytime. No visa,
Sure.
nothing asked.
Yeah, you could.
So how come America can't have a strong border like Mexico?
Well, that's something to see it on both sides. You know, like my parents and a lot of folks came here illegally. They waited in line.
Oh, they did?
Yes, they actually waited. Actually, my father was recruited by the U.S. government, by the U.S. Army, right? So
After he got here? Or
before he got here.
Okay,
Yeah.
before he got here.
He was part of they call it the brain drain.
The brain
they
drain.
got
Yeah,
the
I heard
smartest
that term.
people.
I mean, I learned that term.
Yes, because we wanted to, you know, build this country quick, and you get the smartest people, right? I think that's what America has to do today. You know, we're focusing on the things that we need, and now we have artificial intelligence. We need more smart people.
But do you think
And,
brain drain is detrimental to other nations? It is beneficial to America,
Yeah,
but they're not going back to their mother countries.
In the 60s and 70s, yeah, the term brain drain was used, of course, from an American point of view. But now that the world is catching up, you have folks like India, different countries in India,
Right.
China. They may study here, but they're going back to their countries to catch up with the American industry.
Yeah, other nations are doing that too. For instance, like Samsung Electronics, I think they bring in a lot of Indians too to their companies.
And
you know, it's like
I
brain
ask
drain.
you, why is India? Why are they focusing on producing so many students focusing on math and science? That's where the jobs are at.
Yes, you're right.
So they know that America will hire you or Korea, if you study these. I think that's what America needs to refocus on, and they're trying to from different.
you know, you bring
parts.
up a good point. I think people need to focus on India. You know, India is like this.
what I
Really,
think
I mean, it has like a quarter of the world population. Every time you get in contact with like tech support personnel or even trouble ordering stuff from DoorDash, you know,
Oh.
you get connected to a person in India.
Working with a lot of international trade groups myself, India is becoming definitely a focus. But now with China becoming more of a competition, and the intellectual property rights that are not strong, right? Every time if an American business or any business wants to work with China, they have to give away some of their project background, right? The IP. So India, people forget that's the largest democracy in the world.
It is, right?
It's not communist.
The
But
population
they have a
wise,
caste system, don't they? Is that what I heard, or is that
Oh no, that's illegal.
illegal?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Oh, they banned the caste system.
But do they? But is it banned or is it banned?
Well, I didn't say anything about the customs. You know, a lot of habits die hard, and
Yeah,
that's one of the things.
like that generation has to die, and the generation after.
Yes. You know, don't forget we have our former mayor, Mayor of LA.
you're right.
Eric Garcetti
He's
is
ambassador for India.
He's been
you know?
appointed to
Garcetti,
ambassador,
right.
so we got some connections, right? I think you know.
That was a very
Mayor Garcetti.
strategic move in a way.
It was a good move
was
on
a very good move.
Garcetti's part, I think. You know,
I think it's a big win for Angelinos
Mm-hmm.
and people that live in the Southern California, because a lot of us, including myself, we have very strong ties with a former LA mayor office and all their cohorts. So just think of it from a very strategic angle of how that's a win. You
Mm-hmm.
may not agree with some of his policies when he was mayor, but now he's the ambassador of to the gateway to India.
you think the next economic boom will happen in India, since it happened
People
in
are
China
saying a lot of businesses are looking at not only India but also Mexico.
Mexico.
because of the potential, I wouldn't say threats from China, but you see the whole red balloon scare and things like that. They're becoming a competitor. It used to be a favorite trading partner before, right? Now it's a little different. So they're looking at other alternate countries, Vietnam as well, Taiwan, Korea. And I think part of the things, if I got to interject about what my future role would be, working with the Republic of Korea myself, I'll be deputized as the honorary trade ambassador or investment manager for the West Coast. And it's important to let or remind the American businesses to know about the opportunities of the U.S.-Korea Free Trade Agreement that was established in the mid-2000s. And it's the reason why you have so many Korean businesses that are invested in hiring Americans and the local residents here. I think the same should be taken advantage of for have American businesses to look for trading opportunities to sell in Korea as well, and all throughout either partnering with the Korean companies.
Yeah. Alex, going back to your Schwarzenegger days, was it difficult for Schwarzenegger to deal with Democrats? I don't know how the process worked. Did he have to compromise a lot of his beliefs?
You know what? It was interesting because at first it was the Republican Party was helping us out, and just connecting with different people, primarily within the business side, right, the corporations. But over the next term and a half, we weren't relied upon by the political parties to help us out. And so we relied on our own personal networks, the branding of Schwarzenegger as an actor with his connections, and the focus of how can we help Californians. We didn't care if you're Republican, you're Democrat, and there's not the political party itself. These are just people, Californians and independents. We appointed everybody from judges to commissioners to staff. We're all pretty much nonpartisan, even though some of us belong to different parties. And I think that focus worked. We went directly to the chambers of commerce, even to the unions, because a lot of our agenda was focused on rebuilding the infrastructure. The construction trades loved that. Plumbers, electrical workers, right? So we didn't focus on the politics. Let's focus more on the rebuilding California itself. Okay. Or as Arnold would say, rebuilding California, right? And so I say both parties didn't actually favor us too much.
Okay.
Both Republican and Democrats.
Yeah, I don't think he had an easy road. I think it was very difficult. He was really heavily criticized by Republicans. They thought that he was more of a rhino. It's a derogatory Republican name only. Many people criticized Schwarzenegger
well, it didn't
being
help
that
he
way.
was married to a Democrat.
He said that he always had to sleep. I mean, he sleeps with a Democrat every night. So, right.
I don't know how that works.
You have to be careful when you say that.
Different political parties getting married. That must be a lot of
debate
compromise.
every night, I would think.
Let me just ask you a question from your experience that you worked with Arnold Schwarzenegger in those years. When you're looking at someone like Gavin Newsom, how do you think he's doing so far with California, where everything's just getting more expensive, and you're seeing a mass exodus, like 90,000? The numbers are just increasing every year. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
As having worked in the governor's office, it's very easy to get both criticism and praise, but more so on the criticism side, because you're the head of that state, right? Literally, not head of the U.S. state, but head of the largest populated state in the nation,
and number 10 in world economy. If it was its own,
it used to be number 6,
exactly.
But now it's dropped off.
It's in the top 10.
Yeah,
it's dropped off.
When I was working for the governor's office, we often met with heads of state, i.e., countries, who consider California, working with California. We couldn't do treaties with other countries. Only the U.S. government could do that. But we could do memorandum of understandings, which are agreements. And they treated the governor, Governor Schwarzenegger in this case, as a president because of the economic status. So to your point, yes. But your question about the criticism upon the current administration with Newsom, I work closely with Governor Newsom's office because I work on the boards of many different chambers of commerce and nonprofits. And, we need the support of the governor's office, whether it's Governor Newsom or which governor, doesn't matter what party it is, because ultimately we need them as a partner to help fund us for certain programs. There's a lot of government contracts in the state in the billions of dollars that could need to be focused on also minority groups that are underserved. So things like that, even appointments, making sure that a lot of our folks, and for me, I'm more in the small business end, so I want to make sure that my friends, even myself, want to be appointed to help give advice to the governor. He is from the Democratic Party, yet he needs help from his commissioners and his staff to really give him the right advice when he makes certain decisions, because ultimately it's a competition of ideology.
It is, yeah.
Yes, he is the Democratic Party. Yes, the unions all supported him, but that gives more the onus on the corporate side and the small businesses that don't have any lobbyists to support them. I always say this, corporations have the lobbyists and they have all the support to get the governor's attention. But what about small business owners? What about mom and pop, right? My parents have worked for 50 years of their lives as working in the pizza business. Who's lobbying for them besides, the lobbyists for Pizza Hut or all these different other corporations? What about us, especially minority mom and pops?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always trying to interact. I do interact closely with the governor's office and the state assembly, the county, the mayor's office. It's important, and that's why I always say, hey, especially the Korean American community, you got to step up and be represented, because if no one else is doing it, it's not going to be the mainstream community. It's going to be us.
You have to run, man. I love how you just kind of like pass through a question without answering the question.
Are you still a Republican or you
I'm
left the
actually
party?
independent.
When did you leave the party?
I think a few years ago.
Yeah. Now you're independent, registered independent, right?
Yeah.
More
And
registered independents in California
honestly,
than Republicans
I've always been
now, right?
independent.
Okay.
When I was a Republican, registered because my parents were both Republican, and they're still diehard
Republicans.
dyed-in-the-wool Republican. They support Donald Trump all the way. A lot of first-generation Korean Americans.
Actually, a lot of
first-generation
Actually, a lot of
Korean-Americans
grassroots do. Actually, a lot of grassroots do. But when you watch the media or the paper side, you don't see a lot of those voices. But
yeah, well, I left the party because I think there was too many distractions.
Okay.
They're focused on the personality of Donald
I understand
Trump
what you're saying.
rather than the message. And I disagree with that.
Yeah.
And I voted for Democrats while I was a Republican before.
Yeah, you did.
Because I
remember
focus
that.
more on the issue, and I believe most Americans do vote on issue more than the party, and that's why you see a lot of people leaving both parties, to be honest. And it also includes religion. People are not going to their own faith-based service because they want to choose their own meetups. They're choosing their own experiences. Right? It's a different world now.
America is like the leader of democracy. This democratic organization has been around for a long time, the longest. It was like the first test bed for it. So when you look at it, it's a bipartisan affair usually. It's always just the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Why do you think that's so? Even in Korea, there's little changes in parties and a
But
third
it's
party
basically
popping up
two
here
parties
and there.
actually.
Yeah,
In
but it's
Korea
like a
too,
two-party,
it's just
two main sides.
더불어민주당 and 국힘당. And in Korea, the only difference is they would change their party names.
Yeah, they would.
한나라당, it used to be back in the day, 국힘당,
Yes.
But in America, it's pretty much Republican and Democrats all
why
the
do you
way
think
through.
that's
And
so?
I think it's never going to change.
It's not,
There's always an independent, but you never see an independent get up to the ranks of like a governorship or even the presidency.
Well, we have seen it in the
Bernie
state
Sanders?
of Vermont.
Vermont?
We have,
Bernie Sanders,
yes.
yeah. And also Ross
Independence.
Perot, right? But he made some noise, but he didn't make
the
it.
rise of Ross Perot, back in the 90s.
I haven't heard that name in a long time. It's like Mondale.
Ross Perot, you're right.
Actually, I wasn't going to
days.
support Ross Perot.
But Ross Perot was Donald Trump before Donald Trump, I think, back in the day. But I do think, like what John Young said, it's very limited. Independent cannot make traction. Even Bernie Sanders, he ran as a Democratic presidential candidate.
Yeah, he eventually had to join the party and then got dissed in the end, but regardless.
So the main question, Young,
almost.
was you were asking about why we have this two-party system?
Yeah, why do you think we haven't seen like the rise of like a new party or, kind of like a collective, I guess, an American sort of revolution leaning towards independence, for example?
Well, in America specifically, because we have an electoral college system still, that favors a two-party system.
That is true. You're right.
That's part of it. So the foundation of the actual infrastructure of the way people or elected officials get elected on a federal level is still the two-party system. Number one. Number two, it's money, right? They always say money is the mother
Of
of
what? Root of all evil?
The root of all
Yeah.
campaigns.
I mean, I think that's what he was
money
implying.
is the milk of politics, right?
Okay.
So it's I don't think I said that correctly.
It's the
but-
milk of life, man.
Yeah, it's the milk of life.
It's the milk of everything.
Especially in politics. Without money, you can't do anything. I mean, people like Trump could run because he's a billionaire. That's why he could use his own
And
money,
people
his own
forget that
dough.
Donald Trump was the biggest Hillary Clinton supporter.
He was, yeah. You're
Because
right.
why? Because that was
right.
the Clintons were in power, so of course Donald Trump would go to someone in power
Yes.
for influence,
Yes.
right?
Follow the money.
So in my eyes, it's not that Donald Trump was a Republican. He was never a Republican to me. He was just a businessman. number
Yeah.
one. So whoever's in power,
have
usually
to-
business members are apolitical because of the leveraging the power that be to make more.
So that's why I say that it is virtually impossible to get rid of money out of politics. And you can't have politics in the first place. Either even in China too. Whichever country, it's always there.
It was a concern of the founding fathers, if I could even say that anymore. But the originators of the Constitution, the biggest concern was that having learned the lessons from back in England, where money, i.e., the king, had the power. Right? It was very difficult to depose a king because the king had the power of the purse to influence anyone to make sure that that king or queen was in power, right? So therefore, that's why we didn't want to have a monarchy, number one. So what's next best? Democracy. Ironically, it's the most unstable form of government.
Yeah, it is.
Democracy. Yet, it also produces the most amount of freedom, which we wanted, right? And the main point of I don't know what my main point was, but but
That was the most funniest comment, I heard from a guest.
the question you had was about the power of, was it the I lost my track.
No. He was wondering why it has to be only two parties.
Yeah, the
I
party,
don't think
yeah.
why
Yeah.
don't we see a third party rise up? But you said because of the electoral college system and then
Yeah.
getting money out of the politics is kind of
God,
virtually
this guy's a
impossible.
Oh, yeah.
brainiac, dude.
Now I
He just
remember
like
my point.
recorded this thing in his
Yeah.
head.
The fear
I
of
pushed the
the
record.
founding fathers was that America would become an oligarchy. The power, how money is controlling the way whoever is richest would win.
Well, I mean, that's the
And-
way it is right now, isn't it?
But I think more so with the rise of social media, people are becoming more aware.
I think people are getting more aware.
They see, and you see very, like your show, or you're just delving into, the long form of media is becoming more common, right?
Yes.
So you get to really do a deep dive in discussions about the origin instead of having 3 networks controlling
Right, the
your
narrative.
information source,
Right.
right? In this
30
country.
minutes and they control
Yeah,
the whole
ABC,
narrative,
NBC.
3 liberal-leaning networks,
They
or
are,
far left
obviously.
even.
Well, that's interesting, right? Now, social media, you see a lot of different conservative
Exactly.
views that was
Yep.
not being able to be voiced.
Right.
But it's also being suppressed and repressed as well, because a lot of
Shadow
those
ban.
firms in the Silicon Valley area tend to lean left.
Well, which explains the divide in media, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We have Fox News, CNN. I'm not saying that Fox represents the Republican conservative side. I think that's only a part of it, right? And CNN, and MSNBC and those have you. The rise of breaking points on YouTube,
Breaking points, yeah.
right? Where they're trying
they
to
used to be on the hill, right?
they're trying to fill in that independent voice.
Yes.
Where they saw it as, in the business terminology, I'm to get away from politics. In the business term, it's ingenious thing, because we call it blue ocean strategy, where red ocean indicates there's a lot of fighting, bloody, right? Blood in the water. Blue ocean means it hasn't been tapped in yet.
Yeah,
So I
you're
think
right.
breaking points will be one of many. Independent, where news used to be actually independent before.
That was like way
100
back,
years ago?
back in the day.
What people forget when they watch CNN and Fox, for example, that's opinion news. It's not news. Yes, they may have news segments, but it's mostly opinion now, because that's what riles up the emotions. And then if you do that more, you could charge more advertising.
Yeah.
So it's becoming tabloid news now.
Yeah.
So instead of the really independent would be, besides breaking points, would be PBS NewsHour, and I serve on the board of PBS
PBS?
SoCal. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
PBS, and not as an organization. I'm talking about PBS as PBS NewsHour.
Okay,
they try to be as very independent as possible.
I mean, did you watch the movie Insider? I think the main character was Jeffrey Lord. I forgot his name, but he moved out of that division because he saw CBS News being compromised because he was trying to expose the big tobacco industry. But then CBS pressured him.
Tobacco, yeah.
You know, you remember that? The big tobacco industry. And he was pressured. And somehow there was a falling out. Him and what I forgot that CBS 60 Minutes guy.
What the Insider movie, I haven't seen it. I know about it, but what it proves, I've been telling a lot of people, especially young activists, right? Those, both on the left and right, but more on the left side, is like you could protest all you want, right? That's great. And I love that people could protest in the streets in America because we're exercising our constitutional rights. I'm a big constitutional guy, you know, because without the Bill of Rights, we can't. This is what makes our country different than other countries, right? We could share our opinions without being fear of targeted. All of these days,
right.
Sure
I was gonna say,
but however, I tell the activists, you could protest you want, but make sure you organize and hire someone like me. It's not like advertisement for me,
right?
Or a person that knows how to talk to the government, right? Some say lobbying for certain. Lobbyist is when you want to get the job, certain legislation, right?
Yeah.
You have to be a registered lobbyist, or an advocate like myself, where I work on behalf to get connected, because you need to connect with government. Don't see government as an enemy. See them as your partner in getting the word out, right?
Yeah.
Because you could protest the streets, but you need to talk to your representatives and say, these are your voters, right? We'll vote you out if we don't like what you see. And not, you could block their offices and stuff, but you need to follow up with real lobbying efforts or real advocacy efforts to the elected official, or run for office yourself.
You're right.
Hey, can I just throw in a question right there? Do you think Asian Americans need to do more vocal, I guess, protests?
Like BLM?
Not like that vocal, but, you know, like, I mean, at least we're not heard. You know what I mean? When you see people doing violent things, you know, the LA riots, when you're doing like a civil unrest even, right? But when you get to that point, I think that's when like they're being heard and they get a sort of a satisfaction of being heard. And that's when like legislators, they move on to get you what you need or what you deserve, you know?
Agreed. No, yeah, definitely. Number one, I agree that the Korean or Asian Pacific community must go join in the fray of use your rights that the Constitution gave you. Part of the issue, of course, the older generation is the old Confucian values, right? The nail that gets stuck out gets hammered back in, right?
You know that expression, right?
The second generation still has an influence because we're like, what the psychologists say, we're like 70%, we're like our parents. So you don't have as many APIs protesting, right?
Second
Especially
generation
East
is
Asian.
influenced, you're right.
Maybe it's different among different, you know, because the Asian group is not one monolith, right? The 700 people forget. You know, we're not like certain communities where we speak all one language. We speak multiple languages. I don't know how many times I've ever heard, do you speak Asian? It's like, Asian.
Do you speak Oriental?
So you're saying that we have to expect the third generation, you know, I agree with you. A lot of second generation kids, I think they're more like their parents, you know, they try not to be too opinionated.
Yeah.
I see it among, you know, my peer, you know, they don't want to be
gaslighting.
Yes.
Our parents gaslighted us to be like
so
that.
you don't see them being very vocal. You don't see, we like, if somebody asks me who is your community leader, it's hard for me to come up with a name, you know, because there's some passivity there, even among the leaders, I feel.
Yeah, I haven't taken an Asian American history as a major in college. I have friends that have studied that, and you see those that have been here the longest, right? Like the Chinese Americans, Filipino Americans, they're active, right? Because they're already 5 generations in, right? You know, going back to what happened with and including Japanese Americans too. They're about 4 generations in, right? You see a lot of activism there, right? How do we get the everyone's talking about reparations in the state of California deciding
2 million
to give? Yeah. Well, did you know that the Japanese Americans were able to get reparations back in the 1980s? it was only 30,000 per person per Japanese American that could show proof that their family was incarcerated. Right? They were able to do it. How? And that's a good example. Or they did protest number one. They also had elected officials that were Japanese American descent.
Yeah.
They were able to vote for that, and they got it approved. Right? People forget that. No one talks about that in when they talk about black reparations, right? So I'm not taking any opinions on that stuff. It's more about, well, if you want to do it, make sure you have all your ducks in a row and have someone in government. It's an excuse why we should have more people to run for office that look like us.
No, you just presented the
Instead
plan.
of complaining.
Yeah, instead of complaining, you just presented the plan without taking sides.
Yeah.
You
now,
you
is
told everyone how it
30,000 versus
happened.
$2 million reasonable? Especially during a recession?
Well, 30,000 back then. I don't know when
Oh yeah, I don't inflationary. Yeah.
but I mean, it's not 2 million. I don't think.
Yeah, but the main focus is for me, my personal passion is, and a lot of folks that used to work in government, we need to get in office. You don't have to run for office to be involved. You worked like I did. I worked in government and made recommendations. That's why I named my company Three Kings, because
what does it mean? Three Kings.
well, it came from
when Jesus was born.
Okay. Is that what it means?
the three wise men, right? When Jesus was before Jesus
okay,
was
so
born.
it does. Oh, okay.
Yeah, being raised Catholic and a Christian, I was always fascinated with who are these three kings? They literally were advisors to the king Nebuchadnezzar, that the baby Jesus will be born.
The real
that will
king
change
was
the
born,
world.
Yeah.
But remember, what they don't focus on, what happened to those three kings. They had to run away because they were supposed to report back where Jesus was. But they risked their lives, but they knew the real king was, right? Where the loyalties lie.
Because he knew that the real king would come get.
So they were good planners, strategy. They knew that when and where Jesus was going to be born. Number two, they were loyal to the real king.
Oh.
Right. Number three, they ran away.
So weren't they not loyal to the real king by reporting back?
They were loyal to the real king, which is baby Jesus.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Yes.
All right, okay.
So it's mainly about giving true good advice without fear of the consequences.
Okay.
And so for me, it's like I like to give advice not only as a wordplay just for my clients. It's more for letting people know to speak the truth, because there's a lot of BS going out there. You need to hear the truth, whether it hurts or not.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying out there's a lot of mumbo jumbo out there that people are just being played, right? So long form, what you're doing now is something that's more needed, not the sound bites that has no background. You need to know why the left is saying this, why the right is saying this, right?
And you're going to make sense of all that. And you hear more of that kind of stuff here on Culture Shock. We're going to be back with more Alexander Kim in just a moment.
엘리베이터 내가 잡아놨어. 빨리 다치기 전에 빨리 와. 빨리. 진짜 아까 그 사람 찾으면 우리 늦었어.
그니까 진짜 엘리베이터 잡아서 너무 고마워. 내가 진짜 밥 살게.
근데 나 요즘 속이 안 좋아가지고. 모르겠어.
왜 이래? 내가 도와줘줄까?
근데 면접 끝나고 맛있는 거 먹고
시작하자고.
소화제 먹고 맛있는 거 먹자. 조금 괜찮은 거 같기도 하고 잘 모르겠네.
Okay, we're back with Culture Shock. I'm Michael Wan, news director for Radio Korea.
And I'm Young Kim for Radio Korea.
Yeah, tune in Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time and 10 p.m. Eastern time here on Radio Korea. If you're watching on YouTube, what do?
You click subscribe,
Like.
press the alarm button, and the like button. I said alark.
Did you say alarm?
I put those two words together, alarm and like. We're here with Alexander Kim.
Yeah,
We've been talking
Alexander
about a lot of interesting things during the break.
And we go way back. And I remember I didn't know the name Elon Musk until I heard it from Alexander Kim. Alexander was way ahead of the curve. I think it was almost like 10 years ago when he, I don't know whether it
So
was
after
that way
PayPal,
back.
after he sold
But
PayPal,
we were
did he sell
having a beer
PayPal?
time together at, I think, Prince.
Yeah,
You know, and then,
non-alcoholic beer. Yeah.
yeah. And
Why
then,
do you drink non-alcoholic beer?
was it non-alcoholic? But
that
anyway,
was good.
yeah. And he was telling me, you know, you gotta look for this guy. Elon Musk is gonna be huge. He's gonna really lead the next generation. And I didn't pay that much attention, but Elon Musk, that name, somehow it was awkward, so it kind of stuck to my head. And I think he came out on Iron Man 2, right? Didn't he?
Yeah,
Kind of come
he was
out
in
there.
one of the Ironmans.
And you were talking about that he's gonna be a tech, you know, IT leader, you know, like a pioneer. Can you explain to us, you know, about Elon Musk? Why you paid attention to this individual, and you actually met him too, and twice,
did.
right? Can you talk about it?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny, you know, being a faith-based person. I asked God I want to meet Elon Musk someday, and 2 months later I did.
Wow.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's through my connection with the governor's office when I worked for Governor Schwarzenegger. One of my former staff members ended up working for a neighborhood association in I believe Bel Air, and rose her way to the top to be general manager. And she said, "There's a special event happening, and would you like to come?" And the special guest was Elon Musk.
Oh,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
this
right?
was what year?
Oh, I believe this is maybe close to 9 years ago, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
This was before Tesla got
I
really
think so.
well, this is
Seems like
during
so.
this is during Tesla and during the hype with Hyperloop.
Oh,
Remember
Hyperloop.
the
Okay.
the transportation mode?
Yeah, that's right.
The thing in Las Vegas is kind of a form of Hyperloop. It's not Hyperloop, but tunnels.
Yeah, I pass by
Yeah.
like SpaceX every day because my business is located in between.
Okay.
And then I saw they have like that laying on the street Hyperloop, and then they had something that was just out there for some reason.
Yeah,
They had that rocket.
So it was during that time, and I had the chance to hear him speak in front of a few hundred people at Bel Air, where he moved into. It was a welcoming ceremony when he was living here. Until, of course, we know he moved to Texas.
Texas
right?
now, yeah.
But during the time, I was able to spend time with him afterwards, along with a few other VIPs, and just ask him a question about Hyperloop, and he gave me a preview of what he was going to do. And
It was a one-on-one.
it was like 1 in 5.
1 in
actually.
5, okay.
But he was able to. I mean, for me, I was in this presence of, I don't get really hyped up when I see celebrities and things.
you got starstruck.
But
huh?
when it comes to someone like Elon, as a anyone in the business world even
I agree.
politics too, that would change the world. I saw him as the next Edison of our time.
Okay, so you did see
Well,
it
frankly, the
coming,
next Nikola Tesla, to be frank.
Well, the number one thing that he did, I remember at that time, there were a lot of talks about the environment and pollution and smog and all this stuff, especially in LA. And then they were talking about electric cars. So there were all these big automobile makers that were researching the electric cars, and they were trying to come up with something. And I know that brushless motors and also batteries had a lot to do with the advancement of the electric cars, because I was into RC.
Yeah.
But I know that the big car companies, they were also lagging behind because they were probably being funded or lobbied by gasoline or the oil.
Were they lagging behind? Was it
No,
done,
they
done
did-
by
no,
was
no,
it on
I'm not saying
by
it wasn't
design?
done, but I don't think they really
Well-
pursued it. But Elon Musk did.
With one of the advantages I had being, and this is another reason why people should work in government and work for government, is you kind of get a preview.
Oh,
Government
okay.
doesn't produce jobs.
So you see it
We just
coming.
regulate. Well, under Governor Schwarzenegger, and remember, our office was able to convince Elon to open up his Tesla factory, his first factory in
California.
Roseville, California, right? So he was going to go to either Nevada or Albuquerque.
Oh, he was planning on a different
yeah,
state.
but
huh?
because using, remember the governor's power, persuasion, celebrityness, was able to really convince Elon to open up at the Numi plant, or formerly the Numi plant. That was a partnership between GM and Toyota, I believe. It was called the Vibe, and they just shut down. So just, hey, have the plant. We'll give you some tax credits.
Wow. All
Why?
right.
Because
That's
it
how it
produces
happened.
jobs. Don't worry about losing money through tax subsidies. You will make money through later on taxation, the long run, right?
So a lot of subsidies.
So, yes,
were
I
given to
wasn't
him.
part of that process, but I knew about it because, of course, it was within our administration. And plus, we knew what the regulations that we're pushing for, right? They were all pro-environment regulations, reducing pollution, right?
Alternative energy.
How do you do that? Well, at the time, through hydrogen, like we talked about the hydrogen highway.
Solar.
Focusing on rail, solar, EVs, right?
EVs.
Remember, GM had the first EV.
I know. That's what we were talking about. You know, they had a documentary.
So we
Why did
knew
they kill
head
the
start
electric
that
car?
this was coming our way. Then we saw a startup called Tesla, right? And Elon Musk bought it, and he was going to transform it, right? Just like how he did with PayPal, right? And transform that. That's why he's it. I see what he's doing, right? And there's a wide market.
Okay.
I referred to Blue Ocean, right? The Blue Ocean strategy, where there was no competition to EVs. But his key was when he said, electric vehicle, high performance, make it sexy, right? Literally sexy,
The
right?
design.
Model S.
The design has to look good.
And he was going to build his own charging network. That's when I knew that's it.
Okay.
So that's why, and then having a conversation with them, and I knew about his focus on Hyperloop and his focus on charging networks, Tesla power walls, all these things. It made sense. A distributed energy system where even a homeowner could participate in making money from power because there'll be so much demand. Using solar. So all these things made me very excited about supporting him as a investor, but also as a customer of driving a Tesla, right?
Yeah, you talked about SpaceX when people were not
Oh
talking
yeah,
about
SpaceX
it too.
too.
Yeah.
He talked about rocketry and his focus on disrupting that industry because it was controlled by governments. And Elon Musk said the governments are the most inefficient
That is true.
business people.
Because
That's also the blue ocean, don't you think?
and
Yeah.
doesn't France they rely upon those private rocket companies over government? I mean, that's what I heard. You know,
I
other
believe they have
in Europe.
They have different private companies, but they
Yeah,
also
like
have
jet propulsion
they have the
laboratories.
ESA, European
Yeah.
Space Agency,
And-
similar to NASA. I think they should have a partnership between government. I don't want not dissing on NASA or anything, because you need government in the beginning to start, because who has the money, who has the most risk, right?
No, because I remember in my
Government would
college
take it
years,
on.
they were talking about comparing it with French rocket company, and they're shooting much more efficiently compared to NASA. And
Yeah,
then,
private
and
companies
then they were talking about
have more leeway in terms of being more innovative because
Yes.
they'll be able to take the risk versus a taxpayer-funded company,
Yeah.
right?
So Alex, since you were way ahead of the curve about this individual Elon Musk, he's hitting the news wave almost every day. Whenever I go to news cycles, I see his name
He is the
popping up
news.
every single day. He is the news, and it's almost like a daily thing now. He bought Twitter last year, and he revealed the Twitter files, which was kind of like very controversial. He actually announced together with Ron DeSantis, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, his presidential candidacy last week. Do you see Elon Musk being more of a politician later down the road, or does he want to become like more of a George Soros kind of guy on the right wing side? What do you think
I would
about
say
his
Elon-
Is he
future?
right wing?
Is he right wing? Is he
well,
right wing?
He says he's not right wing. I don't think he's right wing either. He just wants to make sure that everyone has a fair chance.
Right, because alternative energy that goes along with more of the left wing side, right?
Exactly. He reminds me of Arnold, actually.
Arnold
When having
Schwarzenegger.
worked for Arnold Schwarzenegger, he has this mentality where he's all about innovation and freedom, which pretty much connotates to the Republican Party as far as having freedom as in economic freedom, not having big government involvement. He's a small government guy, and you've seen that during the whole COVID shutdowns and things,
Yes.
right? So there are elements of him that seem like he's more on the right, but it's also, like I said, he's all about sustainability. Isn't that a Democratic Party value to have less pollution? Just like what Arnold said, let's focus on pollution. Elon Musk is focusing. He always says that in the talking points, where we're taking away millions of pounds of CO2 because of the cars that he produced, right? Sure, the other criticisms he's criticized. Well, what about the land? Are you going to go into all the batteries that come from land?
Yeah, the
Is that land
batteries that
pollution?
it causes a lot of contaminations. People have been criticizing that.
And then he's shying away from that. And I hear a gong. Is that my time?
I
time
don't
for you to
know.
go, man.
Where did this gong happen? you know?
No, there's a church next door, and sometimes they ring the bell.
Oh,
Sometimes
yeah.
they don't. I don't know why. It's just, what is
It never happens.
I think, no,
Too
it's
much
just-
Seems
about
like
Elon
they're,
Musk?
they're welcoming you.
Am I
Alex.
being censored?
It's like no. This
You're
is
being
the church
praised
gong.
right
so,
now.
so you're, give your preach.
Yeah, but the main point of it is this is the last shareholder meeting. Somebody stood up and talked about, will Tesla commit to all removing, dealing with all the child labor that's used to get the cobalt in the batteries. And he reminded the speakers, like, well, we're not going to use cobalt. We just said we're not going to use elements that are just not taking advantage of child labor laws and things like that. So he's very progressive minded, right? And he does listen to his shareholders, which people admire, and very fresh in terms of CEOs listening to the shareholders directly. That's what I admire. And he's a unique leader, and he's already expressed that to his personal handicap, right? He's on that spectrum with Asperger's.
Yeah, he has
And
Asperger's,
It
right.
took a lot of guts to say that, right? Because to admit
Was
you
that the
have-
first time when he revealed it on Saturday Night Live?
Yes.
Because I didn't
Yeah.
remember him saying that.
that changed a lot
right?
of people's opinions about Elon.
Oh, did
because-
that? Okay.
With the fact that he's humble enough to speak about his disability
Mm-hmm.
and able to turn that
Into a positive.
from his people made fun of him when he was a child, right? They bullied him
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
probably because of what he was experiencing. It's like, hey, if he could do it, we could do
Yeah,
it too as well.
I
right?
think.
Turn a weakness into something strong. And that's what Elon.
But
did.
aren't they all a little bit autistic? If you look at like Bill Gates or I don't know, Einstein and Edison, when you hear these
Oh, yeah.
stories, that they're-
Nowadays,
Steve Jobs,
people-
they're on the autistic spectrum. I hear that a lot.
People may perceive it as a positive thing now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
More of a genius
Mental
side, right?
health is all on the forefront now in everyone's mind these days, and the rising rates of autism in America and around the world. More parents are aware.
About
I
it.
have friends that have children with autism, right? So, and also mental disabilities. So it's a big issue right now. But if it could be seen as a strength, and they become successful, like I don't know if Bill Gates is on the
I mean,
spectrum.
they say that he
but-
might be on the set. I think who is it? Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld kind of said that he's autistic.
Well, look where he got in comedy, right?
Yeah.
Able to use, that's another example where you're able to have what people used to perceive as a weakness or a challenge, and he was able to elevate that because some of them are very good at certain skills, better than the average human.
Yeah.
So I would call them X-Men, right? Because like maybe if it's a certain type of mutation, maybe beneficial for humankind.
But I do kind of think, going back to Elon Musk, I do think he is aligning himself with the Republican Party because of him announcing together with Ron DeSantis. And he did kind of say, I think, what was it, an interview with Joe Rogan? He said, vote Republican. And even Joe Rogan said, vote Republican if you don't like, because the current policy, it seems like the Democratic Party has been going further to the left ever since the Biden administration came into
from
the
a
picture.
world standpoint, I think a lot of countries and a lot of governments are, well, not governments, I would say, but they're electing a more Republican or right-winged
that's what I think
politicians.
is
It's kind of a
happening.
trend right
from
now.
my perception, I've talked about this too among my friends, both on the left and right, that actually what Elon is saying is a moderate view. It's just that the left has shifted more to the left.
I think they did.
And he's remained in the center. So it's perceived that he's right wing, but he's actually, what he's sharing are moderate values. This is in my opinion. So I think, remember, he gave his first allowing DeSantis to make his announcement.
He made his
I saw it as a big
platform.
win for Twitter. I mean, number one for me. But he said it's open to also Joe Biden as well, right? So it seems like he's.
But did he say that
right-wing.
he's opening that for Joe Biden too? Did he
He's
say
open
that?
for every candidate running for president.
Okay.
So I know you're in the media, but
I mean,
this is
he'd
what
be
I've heard.
contradicting his own point or what he's after if he
But
restricted certain.
I understand he offered to DeSantis first, right?
yeah.
But didn't he
but
endorse
only
him?
because DeSantis.
I mean, it looked
remember,
like
Governor DeSantis praised Elon for Twitter.
you're
I think
buying
that's part of
Twitter.
it. So I see it as an act of reciprocity. The fact that he got support from DeSantis for his media Twitter, not for his politics, right? So you got to see it from. I try to see it from a more bigger picture point of view to see it, rather than a political angle.
I guess I just saw the big print or the headline because it felt like he was like endorsing DeSantis.
It did kind of come across.
Unless he
come
said-
across like that. It did
may
kind of come across
that way.
like that.
I could see where your understanding, your view is.
And I think
don't think I said. I saw it.
I mean, it came across as that way because after Elon Musk bought Twitter, he revealed all these Twitter files of FBI colluding with the Clinton campaign and all these things that Twitter was suppressing, and he fired all of them, right? All the top people there. I applaud him for that. Because I knew shadow banning was going on. I knew that shadow banning was going on.
Well, yeah, we talked about this where it's you include Twitter in the whole media landscape of biased opinion-based news.
It was there, yeah.
Twitter, at the time, I think it was not considered to be neutral.
99% of their money went to Democratic Party. Their board members and their
Silicon
workers,
Valley.
their employees.
Right? So,
but I think Elon Musk came and changed. He laid off 80% of them. Can you believe that? And it's still operating better than ever. And I go to Twitter. I used to not go to Twitter because of that exact reason. Because it was so biased to the left that I decided not to go there anymore. But now I go there daily, and I get a lot of news sources better than New York Times and Washington Post. I would say more balanced.
That's great because that's how it should be. You should have folks like your Radio Korea and your cohorts to look at Twitter to a trusted news source of information and data, not so much opinion news from one side or the other.
Yeah.
In this case, it used to be too left. Yes, I agree with that.
Do you think he's going to run for office, Elon Musk, one day? Some people have been saying
I think
that.
it's an option. I would probably want not him to run
the
for
big
office because
he can't.
Is
he an American citizen?
he would have to leave his positions. You can't, unless he's running for a council member. So when you say run for office, do you mean run for office where he needs to quit his jobs, or keep his jobs and be a council member for not the city of LA, because most cities are part-time.
You're right.
So he can run for mayor,
but he can't run for president. You're right, because he's not born here.
He's South
he can't.
African,
Like Arnold.
isn't he?
Arnold said that he would have wanted.
He can't run for
to
president.
Yeah.
He could run for vice president.
Oh, you can?
VP is.
But
possible.
what if the president
VP is not
dies
possible,
while he's
right?
VP?
He gets skipped over. He continues to be vice.
Really?
No, I may be wrong. Okay, guys.
You gotta check the Constitution.
I didn't take a constitutional test. I may not know this, but
I wonder.
That's a good quiz, good pop quiz though,
Oh, I wish Arnold ran for president. Trust me, I think.
A lot of people did talk about that. I was in Korea this whole time, but I remember reading like in the news that
he would have been.
I don't know.
I think it would have been a great president because he focused on the not the political viewpoints. He wanted to just get the job done, right? And regardless of political party, which is actually pretty refreshing.
Were you there from the transition team? The Schwarzenegger when he went to office, when governorship. Were you there from the get-go?
I came on after he got elected.
Oh, after he got elected.
I just met with some of the governor's staff, and they recruited me out of the LA mayor's office.
Okay, because I was wondering whether he had this tough transition from being a superstar, getting $20 million.
People are kind of being critical. They're probably looking at you.
And you have to go through these paperwork, legislatures and all that.
It wasn't difficult in the beginning, but it was difficult toward
the end,
the re-election, and it was very tough because it's the first time Arnold was receiving criticism, right?
Yeah, in his life.
People forget.
In his life.
And when you're a celebrity, 99%, or depending if you're not active in politics, people are going to love you and not focus on your politics, right?
I think...
And they may hate you for like bad movies or whatever, but when you're in politics, then automatically 50% people will not like you.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it is.
Well, nowadays, all Hollywood stars seem to be political,
They are, and I think...
One way, usually.
You know what? Good point. Have you seen the movie Predator, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Back.
There was another
80s.
governor in that movie.
Was
Jesse
there?
Ventura.
Oh, Jesse Ventura was there. You're
that's
right.
right.
I have no time to bleed. Right.
I
ain't got time to bleed.
I ain't
was the
time
name of
to.
his book.
Yeah.
He was
I
the
got
governor of
no time to
Wisconsin.
bleed.
A
No,
two-term-
Minnesota.
I'm sorry.
Minnesota.
You correct me. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
Two-term governor in Minnesota, and
he was praised, right? Didn't he do well?
Yeah, the reviews are great about him until later on. I think when he got associated with Trump, I think again.
Jesse
Something
Ventura
along those
wanted
lines.
to.
Depending on
You're right. They were running for the third party, candidacy.
something
along those
They were kind of competing on that, and I think Arnold Schwarzenegger has been doing well up until that.
Well,
nanny scandal. You know, that kind of brought it.
I did not know anything about that.
You don't know anything about that.
Well, let's focus on positive things.
That being a man.
Yeah, but
thing,
he
you know,
did-
People talk
shouldn't be
about that
like
anymore, right? People
Right.
talk about his great relationship with Jason Bena, his son, right? You know, it's amazing when you're in celebrity news and things like that, you are forgiven on a lot of things.
Seems like
much
so.
more than politicians.
Seems like so.
Yeah, so that's the advantage that Arnold has. You know, I don't, you know, of course that's a different issue, but on the what Arnold has done, what Elon has done, you know, they both have done some certain mistakes, and you know, why throw rocks if all of us
Right.
live
I
in glass
understand.
houses,
I
right?
mean, yeah, you're right. And
Are we exposed to all of our faults and things? You know.
yeah,
You know, it was like I think it also mattered that, you know, I think it was consensual, right?
Are we still on that
I'm
nanny
gonna
thing?
get on-
I mean, the nanny thing.
I don't wanna
I mean,
go-
if it's like
I think it was
if it's like
consensual,
harassment,
you know,
or if it's
but
like
Arnold, if
assault
you're
in
watching
any
this,
way.
sorry,
No,
forgive me. I'm
yeah.
not the one's asking me this question.
Yeah, we're
I'm
just
not
asking
asking
these
a question, I'm
questions.
just
But
making
you're
a
right.
point,
You know, I mean,
I think.
I mean,
Yeah, of course.
I mean, he was a superstar. Arnold Schwarzenegger is an internationally
remember,
known superstar.
He's
and-
still Arnold is very active in not directly in politics, but as far as on the policy side, he is part of the USC Schwarzenegger Institute.
Oh, okay. he
And
is.
4 times a year, he has guest speakers to talk about political reform, kind of exactly what your discussion is about, and also on environmentalism. So, yeah.
What's your favorite Schwarzenegger movie?
Favorite Schwarzenegger movie? Man, that's a tough one.
Dude, like
I would go with True Lies.
True Lies.
that's
That's
like
a good one.
True Lies, you know, I love that one. True
I say
Lies and also
Terminator.
Terminator.
Just the Terminator
one.
series.
You know
I
what?
think the
I like
Terminator 1 and 2.
Terminator.
Yeah.
Terminator is good. I like Twins.
You know
Twins
what?
was good too.
I think it's his
Kindergarten
first-
Cop was good too.
Kindergarten Cop was good.
Yeah, he really made
but
a
Twins, I was
transformation.
disappointed. My hopes were really high, but
I'm
I
looking forward
ended
to
up
a
being
Twins
disappointed.
2 movie. You want to be in it?
Are they gonna? Oh, do you still contact with them? Do you
I
have
work
some
with the
rapport with them?
staff.
Oh, you do. Okay.
Yeah, his staff, whenever they under the USC Schwarzenegger, you know, we did have a board. His staff appointed me to one of his boards called New Way California, and that's the whole point, is to have more neutrality in politics, not focus on Democrat, Republicans, but on the main thing.
You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's like the greatest example of what America is and what America
Right, I
represents.
mean-
You know, to be an immigrant from Austria and then to start working out.
Exactly.
And then make it all the way up the ranks to being a governor.
Arnold-
People talking
I know.
about making him president, you know, but, you know,
he's no-
Australia, right?
it's a
Not
crazy
Is it
story.
Austria.
Is it Austria?
He's no
Austria,
different than
okay.
any Korean American.
Australia.
Austria. Okay.
Hugh Jackman is from Australia.
Arnold's no different than any other Korean American immigrant or any other.
You're right.
immigrant.
And
Well,
Arnold
he's a lot taller, a
Yeah.
lot buffer.
Yes, he's a lot taller and buffer.
Arnold Schwarzenegger became
Very
kind of
handsome.
like a symbol of American dream, you know,
I
in a
think
way.
I
right?
think he should always be considered. I mean, all the
Yeah.
immigrants of America, even looking at, you know, what's his Al Pacino, for example. You know,
what I
there's just a lot
heard
of
about
people.
Schwarzenegger is he is very
Elon Musk too.
Yeah, I heard that
He's from South Africa.
Schwarzenegger is very inappropriately funny in private. Is that true? That's what I heard from
Oh, he's
people.
on the edge.
He's
Yes.
on the edge.
He's a good quipper.
he's very politically
But-
incorrect.
But I'm
in
glad,
private.
you know, the fact that we're still talking about it. He wasn't governor from 2010, right? Yes, he's in movies like Fubar and Netflix and things like that. He's still relevant in pop culture.
Yeah, because
Definitely.
in South Korea that was a huge news.
He was
They
able to
couldn't
get-
believe that he became a governor.
He's another example. We talked about how some people have autism and use it into a positive thing. He used his accent. He
That is
decided
true.
to keep his accent
Yeah.
because it makes him distinct from other
True.
actors, right? And, you know, everyone wants to like pretend to be him, right? And why is that? It's because his success, being a successful actor, he always made fun of himself for saying, "I'm the most famous action movie star," but without an Academy Award.
That's your best
Something like that.
impersonation of your former boss. Right?
Oh yes, welcome to California.
Okay. That's it for Culture Shock today. Thank you very much, Alexander.
you.
Please stop by again.
Thank
okay?
you, Michael.
You know, before you go though, I want to know when you're gonna run.
Yeah, I wanted to actually ask that question, but
You know what? If I do run, I'll let you guys know. I'll
Can you announce
on
it
this
here?
show.
we're gonna announce it here.
Hey, you said it,
no
dude.
plans.
Are you
If
gonna
I
give a
hear an
scoop?
announcement somewhere else,
Yeah.
Alexander Kim is running for this
No,
and that.
hey.
I'm like, hey, you didn't. We have it on tape,
I've
dude.
known you guys, Michael. You know, I've known you for so long, of course.
All right,
Okay.
thanks, man.
And,
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Michael Wan, news director for Radio Korea, and
I am the contents director, Young Kim. You can always catch us here at 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern. And please like and subscribe, as well as hit that alarm bell for our YouTube. Thank you.
thank you.